All right, welcome back to Business Today. We are talking matters culture and Kenya-Ukraine cooperation, which is very critical. And we're just having a good laugh here about work and whatnot, and creativity. And one of the areas that, that cultures can interact is the creative space because it it has shorter walls compared to other facets, because if it is music, I can hear the music and just move to it whether I understand the language or not. So it's very interesting that this whole premise is based on how we can find cultural, meet points and explore what you can learn from one from the other. But Alex, starting with you, because you and international corporate law, which is heavy, and right now relationships, even as we forge them, especially business relationships, people want relationships that are mutually beneficial. Just observing, especially from a perspective of a private sector player, what opportunities are there from both ends, business-wise, that we can take advantage of?
Well, there are a lot of opportunities, and sometimes they are not on the ground. You have to do a little bit of work actually to find those opportunities. Right? Like when Russia came to our lands with war, and I was working with the IT sector, and everybody was scared. Everybody didn't know what to do. The people were scared. The very smart guys who used to develop very interesting projects and products were scared, because for their families, for their children, for their businesses, because everything looked like collapsing. And with time they started working for the joint effort to save the country, because every businessman say, okay, I need to protect my country now. I need to protect my children. I need to protect my home. So what can I do? And many of them could do only IT, and apply their skills in IT. But it turned out, and our military was very far from IT. But those civilian engineers who came and introduced many technical products to the army, that was, a next level. Something that we could only see in the movies, and they stepped up and helped their country. And now there are very successful technological companies who are supporting the military. If we're talking war and how our businesses respond to that, there are many technologies that are used now, and which will be used in peaceful life after we win, after the war ends. So part of our mission here is to share these technologies and say that we came a long way to develop these technologies, and we want to share these technologies with people of Kenya, because people of Kenya understand us. Again, culturally, we are fighting for the same values, for the democracy, and we have we develop these technologies, and now we share these technologies with you, because you are our partners.
Okay, because that raises a very interesting question. First of all, are we innovating around the circumstance that we are in right now, which is the war situation that Ukraine and Russia are in? So is the Ukraine tech space operating and innovating around the war, and should that end? Is that the end of it, or already you are innovating outside that, and some of that Kenyan and Kenyan technological companies can sort of peak in the now and move with it?
Exactly, that's exactly the point. So I'll bring one example. We had a number of companies who pioneered using drones in agriculture, flying over the fields, doing the maps of the field and spraying the nutrition elements over the fields. But those were just a few companies, and people were looking for them as a good example, but nobody was still taking them too seriously, you know. And then when the war came, these companies who had experience, and they had a lot of people who could fly drones, they helped a lot, you know, to monitor the front line, to monitor the enemy movement, to basically drop surprises over the enemy and deliver surprise packages to the enemy. And now these technologies can be, they developed very fast, because it's a matter of life and death. I mean, if you're in business, if you're in agriculture, it can take years to develop a drone, right? Because the season, we have only one season in Ukraine, and like you test something over spring and then forget about it, and then next spring comes, right? Mm-hmm. And in war, you're in danger every day, every minute. Mm-hmm. So you have to be very technologically advanced. Okay. So these engineers, they come up every day with a new idea, with how the drone can fly faster, how the drone can take more load, how the drone can deliver more supplies, how it can deliver more presence to our enemy. Mm-hmm. And this technology is developing very, very fast. Yeah, so okay. Now when they go back to their fields, it's like they had 10 years of experience in agriculture.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of training under extreme conditions, Anastasia. And that brings me to this question about the way our situations change the way we do things. Now, war is forcing us to innovate faster. Culturally, that is a shift. It's like the way sometimes we talk about different towns in Kenya. We say, if you go to the coast, people are chilled, it's slow, nobody is in a hurry, and that's the way of life. That is the culture there. When you come to Nairobi, everyone is always moving, you don't know where they're going. Do you think the situation that we've been through, especially as a country, it has shifted, it is developing a new culture? What is that new culture? And does that even resonate with the different age groups? Because also there is that element of Kenya being a very young country on average. Are we intentional in that regard to look at that particular target audience, for example?
Thank you for this very important question. And yes, absolutely. The culture was not only shifted by the full-scale invasion, by the war, but also how people appreciate and reflect on the culture in Ukraine also changed a lot. So I would provide you a couple examples. First of all, I would say that Ukrainians became much more interested in preserving their culture. Many young Ukrainians chose to speak only Ukrainian. So basically we tie apart our cultural ties with Russia, because now we see that it was absolutely colonial approach to try to get rid of our language, of our traditions, of our culture. So they try to imperialize us, they try to eat us basically. And this is why Ukrainians are also starting to be resistant in a cultural way. Apart from the language, we also have a huge rise in the way how people see cultural arts, see art. For example, performative arts, theater. Now they became so popular in Ukraine. They've never been since the independence of Ukraine in 1991. So definitely culture takes a huge place in this war. Mm-hmm. I think it also gives a lot of hope to people. It basically convinces us that Ukraine is a nation that never would be killed, that we will always be here through the centuries. And despite how big the enemy is, we will prevail. And I think culture gives you a lot of hope in that regard.
Does the background of your president also help? Because I know he comes from a very artistic background.
Absolutely. Sense of humor, irony. This is the way how you can cope with big traumas. So also another example, stand-up comedy in Ukraine. it just arose from nothing. And I had like many stand-up comedians. Today they gather tens of thousands of visitors who are ready to pay huge donations to just to listen to the jokes about the war, about ourselves, because humor really helps you to handle very difficult situations in your life. So yes, even our president shares the same value.
That's interesting. I'll wait to see. I don't know whether we've had any president with a comedy background. Not yet. Yeah, a lot of them public service. Yeah, but even as we come closer to the conclusion of this, Alex, I'd like to pick your brain on this issue of, because you have a background in PE, private equity, and funding. I mean, with the situation of the war internally, have people been intentional to look at different spaces to invest, especially in emerging markets and developing economies like Kenya and Africa? Is it something that Ukraine is very intentional to look at those opportunities where we can have those foreign direct investments from Ukraine into Kenya?
I think the question here is not just about the emerging markets, but about the emerging technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So technologies always invite investors, because investors, private equity, they are looking on ways to multiply their money, right? And with technologies, this is always the future, right? Something new, something very promising, something that can promise a lot of money to investors, but also a lot of change to people, right? And for example, take agriculture, take drones which can transform agriculture, take drones which can transform deliveries, medical supplies in places which are far remote, for example, right? Whereas there are no roads, these things, investors will always be looking for things because they bring a huge change and a big profit to the society at all, because this will be a big push and a big improvement in human life.
Okay.
So this is something, I think we are, as you say, we are in a globalized world. It's not about emerging markets, emerging economies. It's about the technology that can improve human life and the technology that can improve society. So
maybe to put it more bluntly, what is the Ukrainian investor looking for? And secondly, is Africa an option of investment for the Ukrainian investor?
Yes, Africa is an option, and especially Kenya, basically for two reasons. First, you have highly educated people, English speaking, with very good command of English and very good education. So if we are talking the investors in the IT sphere, so this is what Ukrainian IT companies are looking for. This is what Ukrainian producers are looking for, to set up their bases in Kenya and to hire basically people in Kenya to develop new products. And that's actually what I'm looking for, to come to Kenya, to see the opportunities where we can have assembly of drones here, and to have a joint venture between Ukraine and Kenya, and produce drones and export them all around Africa. Okay. For me, Kenya is a gateway to Africa, and I'm really looking forward to exploring opportunities. I've met with the representatives of Konza city today, and I mean that's fantastic. The opportunities here are really interesting, and I feel that there is a lot that we can build on.
Definitely. Our time is up. This was a very short conversation. I think we should have the delegation over sometime later and hold a longer conversation. Briefly, in the spirit of culture, I don't know who's now the top hitting artist in Ukraine right now that we can listen to and sort of start this cultural experience. Anastasia, who are you listening to? Who's the top artist now in Ukraine?
Okay, let it be our representatives at the Eurovision contest, Alona and Jerry Hale. They do amazing rap and hip hop music, and I think that Kenyans would vibe with that music a lot.
Ah, we are very rap leaning, yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. I really appreciate your input. Thank you very much, Anastasia. Kapronova is the program manager, Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa at the Ukrainian Institute. And we also have the gentleman, Mr. Alexander Komiak, who is the executive director at No Level Solution, and with also a leading specialist in drone technology industry, where he's spoken about it very passionately and is looking for opportunities within Kenya. And that's the beauty about creating ties that build. That's what we're trying to do here. Kenya, Ukraine. Create a cultural foundation, build on it with business and more engagement that is mutually beneficial. Thank you very much for watching Business Today. That's where we put a full stop. My name is Nokip Kimboy. Up next to have you at KTN. Stay tuned.